The Bible declares, "It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom," not to make you beg for it, not to make you struggle for it, to give it. If your wallet is empty, it is not because heaven has withheld, it is because you have not spoken the word. In this hour, I will show you how to claim your divine supply. By the end of this teaching, you will know why your money has not multiplied, and you will hold the very words that make it overflow. You will stop begging, stop fearing, and begin commanding the wealth that belongs to you by divine right. I have seen women with nothing but a few dollars speak the word and attract thousands in a single week. I have seen men at the brink of ruin find sudden miraculous supply because they stopped speaking defeat and began speaking truth. You are no different. The same law waits for you. In this video, I will reveal the hidden laws of money that the world never taught you. I will show you why working harder has failed you, and how speaking your word in alignment with divine law makes supply inevitable. We will cover the law of prosperity, the power of your word, the secret of substitution, and the affirmations that have turned poverty into plenty again and again. And I will tell you real stories of debts erased, of wallets filled, of opportunities appearing as if from nowhere, so that your faith is not built on hope alone, but on living proof. Stay with me, for before this hour is finished, you will know how to fill your wallet without working harder, under grace and in perfect ways. Now listen closely, because here's something most people completely miss. They believe their money comes from their job. They believe their wallet is fed by a paycheck, that their rent is paid by an employer, that their security lies in a business, a client, a customer, a bank account. And because of this mistaken belief, they chase and they toil. They run harder and harder on the wheel of effort, but their wallet still stays empty. I tell you plainly, that is a lie of appearances. Your money does not come from your job. Your money does not come from the hand of man. Your money comes by law, the law of divine supply. Until you know this, you may labor endlessly and still live in lack. But once you know it, once you dare to claim it, your supply must appear. Why does this matter so much? Because if you tie your income to human channels, you are bound by human limits. If the company closes, you say your supply is cut off. If a client cancels, you panic. If hours are reduced, you think your abundance is reduced. But the truth is, those were never your source. They were only instruments. And instruments come and go, but the source is unchanging. God is your unfailing supply. Until you anchor yourself in that truth, you will keep living like a beggar in a kingdom where you were meant to reign. So what is the solution? It is to shift your consciousness away from labor and into law, to recognize that the money you need already exists in the invisible, waiting for your word to release it. As the prophet declared, "Concerning the work of my hands, command ye me." Imagine that, God Himself inviting you to speak the command of faith so that supply may rush forth. You are not here to beg or bargain with heaven. You are here to declare your right. And your word sets the law in motion. Let me give you proof, because I never teach theories without demonstration. A woman once came to me in great distress. She was to be sued on the 15th of the month for $3,000. She knew no way of getting it. She was frantic. I told her, God is your supply, and there is a supply for every demand. I spoke the word for her. I gave thanks that the money would come at the right time and in the right way. But I told her she must stand in faith. She must act her faith. The 15th came, and no money had appeared. She called me trembling. What shall I do? I replied, It is Saturday. They will not sue today. Your part is to act rich. Order an expensive luncheon. Show heaven that you are not afraid. She obeyed. The next morning, her cousin, whom she had not seen for years, came to her door, sat with her, and before leaving said, "Oh, by the way, how are finances?" She explained her need, and he replied, "My dear, I will give you $3,000 tomorrow." And he did. She had the exact sum, in perfect timing, without toil, without strain. That is the law of supply. Now, you may be thinking, well, that was just a lucky chance. But no, my dear ones, chance had nothing to do with it. She spoke the word, I spoke the word, and the law responded. Supply was already hers in the invisible. Our words opened the channel. This is why I say to you, stop seeing money as the result of human grind. Start seeing it as the inevitable response of divine law. Let me paint this in another picture. In the days of Elisha, the armies of Israel were in the desert, without water for their men and horses. They went to the prophet in despair, and Elisha gave a strange command. Make this valley full of ditches. There was no cloud in the sky, no promise of rain. To dig ditches seemed madness. Yet they dug, and overnight the valley filled with water, enough for all. Do you see the meaning? You must prepare for abundance when there is not a sign of it in sight. If you believe money comes by law, you will dig your ditches of faith. You will act as though the stream is already rushing, and so it will. The law is exact. The law is unfailing. When you send out words of fear, I can't pay my bills, I'll never have enough, you set in motion a law of lack, and lack returns. But when you send out words of truth, God is my supply, and my good is here now, you set in motion a law of plenty, and plenty comes. The question is not whether the law works. The question is whether you are working the law in truth or in ignorance. So I say to you, stop tying your supply to your boss, to your hours, to your salary. They are channels, but not the source. Dig your ditches by speaking abundance now. Declare, I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right. My supply comes from God, and it cannot fail. Let those words become your law. When you do, money will appear in ways you cannot plan, through channels you could not imagine, but always right on time. Here's something that will sound almost upside down to the reasoning mind. To act poor is to prepare for poverty, but to act rich is to prepare for abundance. And I do not mean reckless waste or foolish vanity. I mean the attitude of faith that says, I already possess the kingdom, therefore I move as one who lacks nothing. Most people reverse this law without knowing it. They are asking for wealth, but they are rehearsing lack. They speak affirmations of plenty with their lips, but with their actions they confess fear. They say, God is my supply, yet they pinch every penny, they refuse to bless their money, they hoard with trembling hands, they shrink back from generosity. And what is the result? They demonstrate exactly what they prepare for. They prepare for famine, and famine appears. They prepare for want, and want marches in at their door. Why does this principle matter so much? Because divine law is never mocked. It responds not to idle wishes, but to conviction, and conviction is revealed by action. Faith without works is dead, said the apostle. That means if your words and your actions disagree, the universe obeys your actions, because actions are proof of your inward belief. If you ask for wealth while acting as though poverty is your reality, then poverty is what you will surely attract. But if you dare to act rich, even when appearances scream lack, you prove that you believe your good is already on the way, and the law must answer. Let me tell you a story. A woman came to me once, trembling with fear. She possessed only $8 in the world. She was weary, discouraged, certain she had come to her end. I told her plainly, good. We will bless the $8. We will multiply them as Jesus multiplied the loaves and fishes. I spoke the word for her. Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance. She is an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to her by divine right. Then I asked her, have you a hunch to do anything? To go anywhere? She paused and said, I feel a hunch to go home, but I have just enough for car fare. Reason would have scorned that idea. Reason would have said, stay in the city and find work. But I answered, never violate a hunch. Obey it? She did. She followed that still, small voice. and through a chain of events that seemed almost miraculous, she met an old friend of her family and received thousands of dollars. Her wallet was filled, not by toil, not by drudgery, but by a single act of faith, acting as though God's supply was already prepared for her. There is another story I must share, for it illustrates the law with piercing clarity. A woman once came to me during the great shortage of apartments in New York. Everyone told her, "It is impossible. You will never find a place. You will have to store your furniture and live in a hotel," but she refused their fear. She said, "I am a Superman and I will have an apartment." She spoke the words, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for the right apartment." She knew supply is always present for every demand. But then the test came. She had been about to buy new blankets when the tempter whispered, "Don't buy them. What if you never find an apartment? Then you will have wasted your money." And she answered back, "No, I will dig my ditches by buying the blankets." She acted rich. She prepared as though the apartment were already hers. And soon after, against all odds, she received the very apartment she needed, though there were over 200 applicants. That is the law. Now you may say, "But Florence, what if I act rich and the money is not there? Won't I be embarrassed? Won't I be foolish?" And I answer you, there is no shame in faith, but there is always shame in fear. Fear is inverted faith. It is faith in evil instead of good. When you refuse to buy the blanket, when you refuse to enjoy the luncheon, when you shrink back and prepare for failure, you are simply placing your trust in lack, and lack will gladly oblige you. But when you dare to act rich, even when appearances mock you, you prove that you believe God is your source, and the law of abundance must fulfill itself on your behalf. Think of it this way: when a farmer plants seed in the ground, he does not say, "Perhaps nothing will grow, so I shall not water it, I shall not tend it, I shall not prepare the barn." No, he acts in faith. He waters, he guards, he even prepares his storehouses, knowing that harvest must follow seed. And so it is with money, with opportunity, with every good desire. Your word plants the seed, but your action proves your faith, and your proof of faith guarantees the harvest. So I give you this charge: act as though your good is already here. Do not economize with fear. Do not cut back in dread. Do not shrink and crouch before appearances. Give, spend, move, and prepare with the consciousness that your supply is endless and unfailing. Speak boldly. God is my supply, and my wallet is filled now. Then prove it by walking with calm assurance. Eat your meal in peace. Buy the blanket in joy. Carry yourself with dignity. Act rich, for in truth, you are rich already. And when you act rich in faith, your outer world cannot help but reflect it, for law is law, and law never fails. Now let me give you the secret that turns little into much, the principle that transforms $8 into thousands, the same law that fed 5,000 men with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. It is this: whatever you bless multiplies, and whatever you curse shrinks. Whatever you hold in fear slips through your fingers, but whatever you hold in faith grows until it overflows. And this, dear ones, is where so many lose the game of life. For instead of blessing the little they have, they despise it, they belittle it, they say, "This is not enough, this is pitiful, this will never do." And by their words they strangle the seed before it ever sprouts. But the one who looks at the smallest coin, the thinnest purse, the tiniest opportunity, and blesses it with the word of truth that one sees it multiply beyond reason, beyond calculation, beyond what the world calls possible. Why does this matter so deeply? Because lack is never about quantity, it is always about consciousness. You may have only $1, but if you see it as seed, if you bless it as the divine beginning of plenty, if you say over it, "This is the loaves and fishes, and as I release it, it multiplies under grace," then that dollar will go forth and return to you pressed down, shaken together, running over. But if you see it as shame, if you call it not enough, if you cling to it with the fingers of fear, then you have already shut the gate of increase, and you will eat the bitter fruit of your own words. I recall a woman who came to me worn out, discouraged, nearly hopeless. She had only $8 left in the world. I did not weep for her. I did not pity her. I said, "Good. We will bless the $8. We will multiply them as Jesus multiplied the loaves and fishes." I spoke the word, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for abundance." She is an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to her by divine right, and I told her to bless those $8 as she used them, to give thanks for them as if they were already thousands. She obeyed, and through a chain of events too intricate for human planning, she was brought into contact with a friend of her family who supplied her with thousands of dollars. That 8 became many because it was blessed, because it was treated as seed, because it was handled with faith instead of fear. Now don't miss this. When Jesus fed the multitudes, he did not despise the loaves. He did not say, "This will never be enough." He took them. He blessed them. He gave thanks for them, and then he broke them. And as he gave, they multiplied. That is the divine order. Bless, give thanks, release, and watch the increase. But most reverse it. They complain, they fear, they hoard, and they shrink. You cannot hoard yourself into abundance. You cannot complain yourself into increase. You cannot cling yourself into multiplication. Only faith releases the flood. I tell you, every possession in your hand responds to your word. If you thank it, it multiplies. If you resent it, it dwindles. If you call your little paycheck pitiful, you have sealed its smallness. But if you call it seed, if you say, "This is God's money, and as it goes out, it returns to me multiplied, under grace," then you have opened the law of increase, and you will see supply return through channels you did not even know existed. Think of a farmer again. He does not look at his handful of seed and say, "This is not enough to feed my family, this is worthless." No, he plants it, he blesses it, he waters it, he releases it into the ground with confidence, knowing it will return multiplied in harvest. That is how you must treat your money. Every dollar is seed. Every opportunity is seed. Bless it, plant it, release it, and expect the increase. So here is the affirmation I give you. My supply is endless, inexhaustible, immediate. Every dollar I spend comes back to me multiplied, under grace, in perfect ways. I bless what I have, and it grows. I give thanks for the little, and it becomes much. Speak this over your purse, over your wallet, over your coins and your bills. Do not look at them with fear. Look at them with thanksgiving. See them as seeds of plenty. And as surely as night follows day, you will see the multiplication. And remember this, fear of lack is inverted faith. It is faith in nothingness, and it always fulfills itself. But faith in supply is faith in the fullness of God, and it too always fulfills itself. Choose this day which law you will activate. Will you curse the little and watch it shrivel, or will you bless the little and watch it grow? The choice is always yours, but the law never fails. Here is a truth most people never dare to grasp. Your word is not idle breath, not wasted sound, not harmless chatter. Your word is your wand, filled with magic and power, creating the very conditions you walk into tomorrow. By thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. These are not poetic phrases, they are exact laws. Every word you speak is a seed, and the subconscious is the garden that never refuses seed. If you sow weeds with your lips, you will reap weeds in your affairs. If you sow roses with your lips, you will reap roses in your life. The tongue is a mighty rudder steering the ship of destiny, and most men sink their own vessels by careless speech. Why does this law matter so much? Because every condition in your life is an outpicturing of yesterday's words. The house you live in, the clothes on your back, the money in your purse, the very health in your body. All these are records played back from words spoken and accepted in the past. The subconscious has no sense of humor, no judgment of just kidding. It takes every word as law, records it like a phonograph disc, and plays it back in your experience. A woman once laughed, saying, "I am so tired of my house, I wish I lived in a trunk." She repeated it often, thinking it a joke. Years later, when her fortune was gone, she lived literally out of a trunk. The subconscious had simply fulfilled her decree. That is why I tell you, never joke about lack, never jest about disease, never amuse yourself with pictures of failure. The law has no laughter, it only obeys. What then is the solution? To use your word consciously, deliberately, like the magic wand it truly is. Every problem can be transformed by the right words spoken in faith. Where there is sorrow, speak joy. Where there is sickness, speak health. Where there is lack, speak plenty. A woman once came to me with only $2 in the world. I told her, "We bless these $2, and we know you have the magic purse of the Spirit. It can never be depleted. As money goes out, money comes in, under grace. In perfect ways I spoke the picture into her mind. See your purse crammed, jammed, bulging with bills and checks and currency." She saw it. She felt it. She dared to believe. Not long after, she was gifted with $6,000. That was not chance. It was the word multiplied and made flesh. Now perhaps you say, "But Florence, I've spoken so many wrong words already. Have I doomed myself?" And I say to you, no. For just as a phonograph record can be broken, so can the old records in your subconscious be smashed and replaced. Speak this with conviction. I now smash and demolish every untrue record in my subconscious mind. They return to their native nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within, records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. Every time you speak it, the old music fades, and a new symphony begins to play. Do you see the stakes? If you let your tongue run wild with fear, complaint, envy, sarcasm, you are digging ditches of failure that must soon be filled. But if you guard your lips and speak only life, only truth, only abundance, then you are writing the script of a radiant tomorrow. You will find yourself saying, "I have a perfect work in a perfect way. I give a perfect service for perfect pay." And almost without effort, the work will appear, the pay will come, the service will be recognized. So here is your charge. Become a watchman over your words. Speak deliberately. Speak only that which you desire to see externalized. Do not speak defeat, even in jest. Do not speak poverty, even in complaint. Do not speak sickness, even in description. Say instead, "God is my unfailing supply. Large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways. Every bill is paid, every need is met, and I walk in abundance now." Say it until your whole being rings with it. Say it until your subconscious is saturated with it. Say it until the world around you bends and shapes itself to your word. For it must. Law never fails. Now let me show you the very instrument by which you command wealth, health, opportunity, and perfect self-expression. It is the simple but invincible practice of affirmations. These are not weak wishes, not timid hopes, not poetic sayings meant to soothe the mind. Affirmations are decrees, statements of truth, words spoken with authority that imprint the subconscious, awaken the superconscious, and compel the outer world to align. Every affirmation you dare to speak with faith is a law set in motion, a seed planted in the invisible, a hammer blow against the walls of lack and delay. The Bible declares, "Thou shalt also decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee." To affirm is to decree. And when you decree from the Spirit within, heaven and earth must obey. Why is this so crucial? Because the majority of people pray like beggars, instead of affirming like rulers. They plead with heaven, they whine in fear, they repeat empty phrases with no conviction, and then they wonder why nothing changes. They approach God as though He were reluctant to bless, instead of realizing he is infinite supply waiting to be spoken into manifestation. But the soul who affirms with boldness, who says, "This good is mine now, by divine right, under grace, in perfect ways," that soul speaks as heir to the kingdom. That soul lays hold of what already belongs to him in the unseen and calls it forth into the seen. Let me give you proof. A young woman once came to me longing for a place on the stage. She had no experience, no training, no money to bribe her way in, nothing the world would call credentials. But she had one thing, the word. I gave her this affirmation: "Infinite Spirit, open the way for my great abundance. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right." She repeated it hundreds of times. She saturated her consciousness with it. She walked with it. She slept with it. She spoke it aloud with conviction. And soon, without effort, she was given an important part in a successful opera. She said to me, "It was a miracle due to that affirmation." No, my dear ones, it was not a miracle. It was law. She commanded supply, and supply obeyed. Here are words you may speak over your own life, words that carry the vibration of truth and must be fulfilled. God is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly. Under grace, in perfect ways. Do not mumble these words. Do not say them mechanically. Say them as a decree, as though you were a general commanding an army, as though you were a king commanding his court. Speak them until every cell in your body vibrates with the certainty of supply. Speak them until your subconscious begins to echo them back in dreams, impulses, and hunches. Speak them until the outer world bends to your decree. Another affirmation is this: I have a perfect work in a perfect way. I give a perfect service for perfect pay. Do you feel the completeness of those words? They leave no room for lack, no room for exploitation, no room for failure. They establish the law of right work, right service, right reward. When you speak them, you are aligning yourself with the divine idea of work, not toil, not drudgery, but joyful expression that is perfectly paid. I have seen men and women repeat this declaration and be lifted from poverty into their true vocations, from meager wages into abundant reward. Now perhaps you say, "But Florence, what if nothing happens when I affirm? What if I say the words and still see no change?" And I answer you, never dig up your seed to see if it is growing. The farmer does not pull his crop from the soil to check its roots. He waters it, he tends it, he waits, and in due season it appears. So it is with your affirmations. The moment you speak them in faith, the law is already at work. Invisible channels begin to open, people are moved, circumstances shift, doors prepare to swing wide. The fact that you do not yet see it does not mean it is not happening. It means the seed is in the soil and the harvest is certain. One more story to anchor this truth. A woman came to me desperate for money. She spoke the affirmation, "I am linked with an endless golden stream of prosperity which comes to me under grace, in perfect ways." She said it again and again until she felt herself swimming in the reality of that golden stream. Soon after, gifts and opportunities flowed to her in such abundance that she wept with joy, saying, "I never knew life could be so rich." This is the power of affirmations. They are not begging, they are commanding. They are not cries of fear, they are decrees of law. So I charge you today, choose your affirmations wisely and speak them boldly. Do not say, "I will be rich someday." Say, "I am rich now. God is my supply, and my good manifests instantly under grace." Do not say, "Perhaps an opportunity will come." Say, "My perfect work comes to me now, and I give perfect service for perfect pay." Let these words become your daily bread. Speak them when you rise. Speak them as you walk. Speak them before you sleep. For your word is your wand, and every decree spoken in faith writes tomorrow's reality. Now we come to a law that explains why so many live under patterns of defeat repeating the same poverty, the same failure, the same sickness, the same disappointment again and again, as though caught in a loop that never breaks. The reason is simple. The subconscious is like a phonograph disc, ever playing back the records you have imprinted upon it with your words, your fears, your imaginings. If the record is one of failure, then no matter how many affirmations you whisper timidly on the surface, you will find the old tune playing beneath, dragging you back into the same conditions. This is why some people move from one job to another, one marriage to another, one home to another, yet the same troubles follow them. It is not the outer change that breaks the cycle. It is smashing the old record in the subconscious and engraving a new one with the spoken word of truth. Do you see how serious this is? Every idle word, every complaint, every fearful declaration, every bitter joke becomes etched upon the subconscious, and the subconscious, having no sense of humor, no judgment, no reasoning, plays it back as literal reality. A woman once said to me for years, "I am sick and tired of my home. I wish I lived in a trunk." She thought it amusing. She repeated it so often that she created a clear picture in her subconscious. In due time, her fortune failed, and she lived literally from a trunk. That was not fate, nor chance, nor accident. It was simply her subconscious carrying out her word. Another woman, wealthy and secure, continually joked that she must prepare for the poorhouse. She said it again and again until the subconscious engraved it as law. In a few years, she was nearly destitute. These were not tragedies imposed by heaven. They were demonstrations of law. They were the exact harvest of words spoken without understanding. But here is the good news. Just as you can play a new record on a phonograph, so can you break the old records in the subconscious and replace them with new ones. You do this by the spoken word. The subconscious is a faithful servant. It accepts every command. If you say, "I smash and demolish every untrue record in my subconscious mind," they return to their native nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within, the records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. The subconscious obeys. The old grooves begin to crumble, and new grooves are cut, grooves of abundance, harmony, and joy. Why does this matter so much? Because until you smash the old records, your affirmations may seem powerless. You may declare abundance in the morning, but walk in poverty by night, not because the affirmation failed, but because the louder record beneath was still playing, drowning out your new song. But when you boldly demolish the false record and replace it with truth, the subconscious can no longer play back lack, failure, or defeat. It can only replay the new music you have spoken into it. That is why I say, never stop at affirmations alone. First break the old record, then write the new one. Let me give you an example. A man I knew carried all his life the belief that he would fail in business, for his father had often declared, "We are not lucky in money. We always lose." That belief became his record, and no matter how hard he worked, failure came. When he learned the law, he began to say, "I smash the record of failure. I now engrave the record of success through the Christ within me. I am successful now, by divine right, and nothing can oppose me." He repeated this until his subconscious accepted it, and soon his affairs shifted. Opportunities appeared, doors opened, business prospered. The old tune of failure had been silenced, and the new tune of success played so strongly that outer conditions had to dance to its rhythm. Think of this law as a great orchestra. Every instrument in your life, the work you do, the people you meet, the money you handle, plays in harmony with the sheet music your subconscious provides. If the music is discordant, the orchestra cannot play sweetly. But when you replace the sheet with a new symphony of truth, the entire orchestra of your life shifts into harmony. That is the power of breaking old records and making new ones. So I say to you now, take up your wand and speak with conviction. Declare, "I now smash and demolish every untrue record of lack, sickness, failure, or loss in my subconscious mind. They are powerless, they are gone, they are nothing. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within, records of radiant health, endless wealth, overflowing love, and perfect self-expression. I live now in the music of heaven, and my whole life plays in harmony with truth. Say it often. Say it until you feel the vibration shift. Say it until the old grooves crumble to dust and the new ones resound like a mighty chorus. For the subconscious never refuses a command, and when the command is truth, it must obey with joy. Here is a truth that overturns the schemes of human reason and the restless will of man. Whatever is truly yours by divine right cannot be kept from you, and whatever is not yours by divine right cannot be forced to stay. The world does not understand this, and so men and women waste their years clutching after things, chasing after people, forcing their wills upon situations that were never theirs to command. They fix their eyes upon a certain job, a certain house, a certain man or woman, and they say, "It must be this, it shall be this, I will have it." And in doing so, they step outside the law and bind themselves to disappointment. For the law of spirit never gives what is not rightfully ours, and it never withholds what is. When we cease from forcing, when we release the stubborn clutch of human will and instead declare for divine selection, then what is ours comes swiftly and joyfully, and what is not ours dissolves without regret. Why does this law matter so deeply? Because most suffering comes not from lack, but from wrong possession, from holding what does not belong, from clinging to what heaven never decreed, from pressing the square peg of our desire into the round hole of divine order. The human will is blind. It sees a glittering trinket and mistakes it for treasure. It sees a handsome face and mistakes it for love. It sees a door open and mistakes it for destiny. But divine selection is never blind. It chooses with infinite wisdom, infinite tenderness, infinite foresight. To accept divine selection is to walk in safety. To insist on human will is to invite sorrow. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. The kingdom is divine order, the pattern written in heaven for your life. Seek that pattern, and the right things will find you. Let me give you a case that shines like a lamp upon this law. A woman once came to me, deeply in love with a certain man. She begged me to speak the word that he would marry her. She named him, let us call him A.B., and insisted that he was her soul's desire. I told her plainly, it is against spiritual law to force your will upon another, but I will speak the word for the right man, the divine selection, the one who belongs to you by divine right. If A.B. is the right one, you cannot lose him, and if he is not, you will receive his equivalent. She agreed reluctantly. Weeks passed, and she still saw A.B. from time to time, but no progress was made. Then one evening she said to me, "For the last week, A.B. has not seemed so wonderful to me." Soon after, she met another man, and this one spoke to her all the words she had longed for A.B. to say. He was her true mate, her divine selection, and she lost all interest in the first man. She said, "It was uncanny, Florence. He said everything I ever wished to hear. There was no loss, no sacrifice, only substitution of the right for the wrong, the real for the counterfeit, the divine for the human guesswork. That is the law of substitution, and it always works when we let go of the lesser for the greater. Do you see the contrast? When we cling to human will, we imprison ourselves in limitation. We demand, we fret, we force, and we end up resenting the very thing we begged to obtain. But when we yield to divine selection, we walk in freedom. We say, if not this, then something better. If not here, then elsewhere. If not this one, then the one chosen by Spirit, and always the better comes. I have never seen this law fail. Those who release their grasp receive their good in perfect ways. Those who cling and force may get what they want for a season, but it soon turns to ashes in their hands. So I say to you, never fix your will upon a person, a place, a thing. Instead, declare for divine selection. Say, Infinite Spirit, open the way for my right place, my right work, my right home, my right friends, my right love. Let the divine idea come to pass. I refuse to force. I refuse to cling. I stand free to receive what is mine by divine right. When you speak thus, you set heaven in motion. What belongs to you begins to rush toward you like iron to a magnet, and what does not belong begins to drift away without struggle. There is no loss in divine mind, only substitution. Think of it as a great storehouse filled with treasures. You are walking among the shelves, and you see a glittering object. Your human will says, I want that one, I must have that one. But Spirit says, no, child, that is not for you. Look to the next shelf. There lies the thing that is yours, more beautiful, more enduring, more fitting than you imagined. If you insist, you may clutch the wrong thing, and it will burden you until you release it. But if you trust, if you wait, if you accept divine selection, you will be led to the true treasure that cannot be lost or stolen. So release the stubborn grasp of human will. Cast away the false idols of, it must be this, and I cannot be happy without that. Say instead, if not this, then its equivalent. If not this person, then the divine mate. If not this place, then the perfect one awaiting me. Speak it with calm authority, and the law will answer. For divine selection is never late, never cruel, never mistaken. It is the voice of infinite wisdom choosing for you with greater love than you could ever choose for yourself. Here is where so many lose their way in the game of life. They demand the exact form instead of trusting the essence. They set their heart upon a particular house, a particular job, a particular man or woman, and they declare, it must be this, or else I have nothing. In so doing, they shut the door to their greater good. For the law is this: you may not always receive the exact form you have imagined, but you always receive the essence of your desire when you stand in faith. The universe, which sees from beginning to end, knows better than your short-sighted vision what form will carry the essence safely, harmoniously, and in lasting joy. When you insist upon a form, you may clutch a shell while the pearl lies waiting elsewhere. But when you release the form and claim the essence, the pearl is placed into your hand, and you marvel at how much better it is than what you thought you wanted. Why is this distinction so vital? Because clinging to the exact form is the work of the human will, and the human will is blind. It cannot see the hidden snare, the future sorrow, the concealed flaw. You may think you want that job because it seems to promise security, but heaven knows it would grind you down in bitterness. You may think you want that person because they glitter with charm, but heaven knows they would become your torment. You may think you want that opportunity because it shines today, but heaven knows tomorrow it would collapse and leave you destitute. So when Spirit refuses your exact picture, it is not denial, it is protection. Spirit says, child, I will give you not this counterfeit, but the real coin, not this shadow, but the substance, not this passing trinket, but the lasting treasure. I remember many who came to me with their exact plans, all carefully laid. They wished to marry this one, move into that house, receive this position, and they begged me to speak the word for those precise things. I told them, I cannot speak for your will, I can only speak for divine right. If this thing belongs to you, it will come. If it does not, then its equivalent will come, and it will be far greater than you now imagine. And time after time they came back to me rejoicing, saying, I thought I had lost, but I see now I gained. I thought I was denied, but I see now I was saved. I thought heaven was against me, but I see now heaven was for me all along. Think of the children of Israel. They longed to go back to Egypt, to their exact condition, because it seemed familiar and secure. They cried for the leeks and the garlic, but God had prepared for them a land flowing with milk and honey. Many still cry for their leeks and garlic. They cry for the old bondage, the old job, the old relationship, the old form, when God is calling them into a promised land. The wilderness between is only the bridge between the exact thing and the essence fulfilled. Do not mourn for the form that slips away. Rejoice that Spirit is preparing something better in its place. Let me give you a clear illustration. A woman came to me desiring a position. She was weary, discouraged, and she had fixed her mind on one particular office. She begged me to speak the word that she be given that place. I refused to limit the spirit, and I spoke instead for her right work in her right place, giving perfect service for perfect pay. In a short time she received an offer, not from the office she had named, but from another far more desirable, with double the salary and work that delighted her. Had she clung to the first, she would have missed the greater. That is the way of divine substitution. Never loss, but always gain. Another came weeping because a certain man had forsaken her. She declared she could never love again, never be happy without him. I told her to release him into the hands of divine love and to claim instead the essence of what she sought: companionship, devotion, harmony, joy. If this man is yours, he will return. If not, his equivalent will appear. She obeyed, and soon another man came into her life, one who fulfilled every quality she had longed for, and her sorrow turned into singing. She later said, "I thank heaven I was spared the exact thing, for I see now how wrong it would have been." That is the law. You may not always get what you think you want, but you will always receive what you truly need when you stand in faith for the essence. So I say to you, do not chain spirit to your human blueprints. Do not bind heaven with your exact demands. Declare instead, the divine idea now comes to pass. If not this, then its equivalent. If not here, then elsewhere. If not now, then at the right time, in the right way. And know that what comes will be greater than what you asked. For God's ways are ingenious, His methods are sure, His substitutions are always richer, fuller, and safer than anything you could have chosen by yourself. Lift up your voice now and affirm with me, I no longer cling to form, I claim the essence. I no longer limit my good, I accept the divine equivalent. Infinite Spirit, open the way for my right work, my right home, my right love, my right supply. The divine idea now comes to pass. I let go of the lesser and I receive the greater, under grace, in perfect ways. Hold fast to this declaration, and you will find that what comes will astonish you, delight you, and satisfy you beyond the boundaries of your former imagining. Here is one of the greatest secrets ever given to man, and yet it is the most neglected: the command to cast your burden upon the Lord and go free. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. That is not a poetic suggestion. It is an exact spiritual law. Whatever you hold in the grasp of worry, of fear, of tension, you must carry on your own back, staggering, weary, crushed under its weight. But whatever you release to the Christ within, the divine self at the center of your being, is lifted from you instantly, and you go free while the problem dissolves and the supply appears. The tragedy is that men and women cling to their burdens, clutch them close, stroke them with endless worry, turning them over and over in their minds as if handling them more would solve them. But the law is clear. What you carry, you keep. What you release is redeemed. Why is this law so important? Because the human mind cannot solve its own problems. The reasoning intellect is the Pharaoh that keeps you in bondage, whipping you to make bricks without straw. The more you think about the problem, the more tangled it becomes. The more you reason, the more you exhaust yourself, until you are like a traveler wandering in circles in the desert, never finding the spring of water that lies just beyond sight. But the Christ within is infinite wisdom. The Christ within is the way shower, the burden bearer, the one who knows the perfect solution and holds the key to every closed door. Until you hand your problem over, the Christ cannot act. But the moment you say, I cast this burden on the Christ within and I go free, the weight drops, the way opens, the answer comes, and the demonstration appears. I recall a woman who was bound in chains of fear. She came to me trembling, saying she was tormented with worry for her son, who had wandered into a life of waste and peril. Night and day she carried the burden of his safety. I said to her, "You must cast him on the Christ within. You must declare, 'I hand this child to God. He is God's child. Divine love now takes charge of him and brings him into his right place. And then you must go free. Refuse to worry. Refuse to picture disaster.'" She obeyed, though her heart fought against it. But as she repeated the words daily, the weight lifted from her. Within a short time, her son returned, transformed, sober, ready to live rightly. She said to me later, "When I let go, he was saved." That is the law. You cannot save another by clinging in fear. You save them by releasing them into divine keeping. Another woman came to me, overwhelmed with debts. She carried her bills like heavy stones in her purse, reading them again and again, reciting her helplessness to every ear that would listen. I said to her, "My dear, the more you carry those bills in your mind, the more bills you will produce. Cast them on the Christ within. Say, 'I cast this burden of debt upon the Christ within, and I go free.' My supply is endless, immediate, and comes to me under grace in perfect ways. Put the bills in a drawer. Refuse to brood upon them. Instead, thank God daily that every bill is paid, every obligation met, in divine order. She obeyed. Within a short time, unexpected money came to her from several channels, and she cleared every debt. She said to me, "It was uncanny. Money came from places I never imagined. It was not uncanny. It was the exact working of the law. When she stopped carrying her burden, heaven carried it for her." Do you see now the contrast? When you stagger under your load, you block the very supply that would ease you. But when you cast the load upon the Christ within, you free the channel for divine supply to rush through. Jesus said, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." That invitation is not for tomorrow, it is for now. Every care, every fear, every anxious thought is a burden, and every burden is meant to be cast, not carried. You are not here to crawl under loads. You are here to walk free in dominion. So here is the practice. Whenever a thought of worry presses in, whether it be about money, health, loved ones, work, or the future, stop at once and say aloud with conviction, "I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free." Do not merely whisper it. Say it until you feel the weight drop. Say it until you feel peace take its place. Then refuse to pick the burden up again. If the thought returns, cast it again. Cast it 70 times 7 if necessary. For every time you cast, you loosen the grip of fear and open the door wider for spirit to act. Think of it as carrying a heavy package on a long road. Your back aches, your hands grow numb, your pace slows. Suddenly, you see a strong porter walking beside you, eager to carry it. Yet you refuse, saying, "No, I must hold it. I must prove I am strong." That is foolishness. The wise traveler hands the burden over, and instantly he walks free, light, rejoicing. That is what it means to cast the burden on the Christ within. You are not made to stagger under loads of fear. You are made to walk free in joy while the Christ solves every problem. So I charge you now, whatever burden weighs upon you, cast it at once. Say with me, "I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free." The Spirit within me now solves this problem in perfect ways. I thank thee that it is done, and then walk on, free and unafraid. For heaven cannot carry what you cling to, but the moment you release it, the law takes hold, and your demonstration begins. There is a voice that speaks within you, a voice that never misleads, a voice that whispers the shortest road to your good, the safest path through every danger, the open door when all others seem closed. That voice is intuition, the still, small voice of spirit, the Christ within, the direct guidance of infinite intelligence. Men and women who ignore that voice spend their lives wandering in circles, groping in the dark, stumbling into pits of error, making wrong choices, and crying, "Why has God forsaken me?" But God has not forsaken them. They have forsaken their own guidance. For intuition is not a rare gift for the few. It is the inheritance of every soul. The tragedy is that most are too noisy, too fearful, too stubborn in their reasoning minds to hear it. Yet the law is simple. When you listen to intuition and obey, your path is straight, your supply is sure, your protection is certain. When you silence it and follow only the intellect, you walk the hard and crooked road of experience. Why is this law so vital? Because the reasoning mind cannot see beyond appearances. It calculates, it argues, it hesitates, it doubts. It tells you to cling to the familiar even when the familiar is bondage. It warns you away from risk even when risk is the doorway to freedom. It whispers fear when spirit is shouting faith. But intuition sees the end from the beginning. It knows the trap before you step into it. It knows the treasure hidden behind the wall. It knows the perfect time, the perfect way, the perfect person, the perfect opportunity. Intuition is God's direct speech to the soul, and when you heed it, you cannot fail. I recall a woman who came to me, weary, nearly penniless, with only $8 left. I asked her if she had a hunch to do anything, to go anywhere. She hesitated, then said, "I have a strange hunch to go home. But if I do, I will have only enough for car fare and nothing left." The reasoning mind scorned that impulse. The reasoning mind said, "Stay in the city, keep looking for work, be practical." But I said to her, "Never violate a hunch. Obey it." She did. She followed that quiet urging and returned home. There, through a chain of events she could never have planned, she met an old friend of her family who supplied her with thousands of dollars. The world called it chance. I called it obedience to intuition. Another woman once heard her intuition whisper, "Take that train." She resisted, arguing with herself, but the impression grew so strong that she obeyed. On that train, she met the very person who gave her the opportunity she had prayed for. That was no coincidence. That was spirit arranging her steps through the voice of intuition. Do you see the contrast? Intuition is the magic path. Reasoning is the hard road. Intuition is swift, direct, effortless. Reasoning is slow, heavy, tangled. You may plod for years under reason and get nowhere, or you may obey a single flash of intuition and arrive at your goal in an instant. This is why I say, cultivate the habit of listening. Quiet yourself daily. Ask, Infinite Spirit, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What is the next step? Then wait for the inner nudge, the sudden clarity, the strong hunch. And when it comes, obey at once, no matter how strange it seems to the intellect. So many are ruined because they pray for guidance, but then refuse to follow it when it comes. They say, "Oh, that cannot be right. That is too foolish. That is too risky." They dismiss the very answer they asked for, and then they complain, "Heaven is silent." Heaven is never silent. It is man who is deaf. The guidance comes, but man discards it. The way is shown, but man refuses it. And so he suffers until at last he learns that obedience is the shortest road to freedom. Here is the affirmation I give you. I am divinely sensitive to my intuitive leads, and I give instant obedience to thy will. Say it until it saturates your being. Say it until you no longer hesitate. Say it until you recognize the difference between the nagging of fear and the nudge of spirit. The voice of fear always speaks of loss, danger, and ruin. The voice of spirit always brings peace, clarity, and assurance, even if it calls you into the unknown. Think of intuition as the compass of your soul. When you are lost in the forest, you may wander endlessly by sight, guessing at the paths, mistaking shadows for signs. But if you carry a compass and trust it, it leads you directly to the open road. Intuition is that compass. Trust it, and it will never fail you. So I say to you, stop drowning in the noise of reasoning and fear. Quiet yourself. Listen, and when the whisper comes, obey. Say daily, Infinite Spirit, open the way. I am divinely guided. I follow the magic path of intuition, and I cannot miss my way. For when you walk in that guidance, you are led beside still waters, you are brought into green pastures, and your cup runs over with good. There is a secret that multiplies whatever you touch, a law that increases every possession, every opportunity, every dollar in your hand, and that secret is gratitude. Gratitude is not a sentiment, not a polite phrase uttered with shallow lips. Gratitude is a mighty force of multiplication. When you give thanks for what you have, however small, you place it in the current of divine increase, and it must grow. When you complain of what you have, however much, you drag it into the current of loss, and it must shrink. Every possession you hold is either being blessed into multiplication by your words or cursed into diminishment by your complaints. There is no neutrality. You are either praising your way into abundance or grumbling your way into lack. Why is this law so exact? Because the universe mirrors your attitude. If you bless your money, you affirm that you live in a universe of supply, and more is drawn to you. If you curse your money by saying it is too little, too meager, too pitiful, you affirm that you live in a universe of scarcity, and it shrinks accordingly. The law is simple. What you appreciate, appreciates. What you depreciate, depreciates. And so it is that two people may hold the same sum in their hands, one blessing it with joy and seeing it multiply, the other despising it and watching it slip away. I knew a woman who would thank God for every coin that passed through her hands. She would hold her purse and say, "This money is God's money, and it comes to me in perfect order, in perfect timing, in endless ways." She never spoke of lack. She never complained. Though she lived simply, her supply always flowed. Opportunities opened to her, gifts were given to her, and she never knew real want. Contrast her with another who constantly said, "I never have enough. Money slips through my fingers. Everything costs too much." She lived in continual lack, no matter how many times her income increased, for she was condemning her own supply with every word. The difference was not in the dollars, but in the attitude toward them. Let me give you a vivid picture. Gratitude is like the sun that ripens fruit on the tree. Without the sun, the fruit remains hard, bitter, unripe. With the sun, it grows sweet, abundant, ready to harvest. So it is with your possessions. Gratitude ripens them into more. Complaint leaves them bitter and insufficient. If you are in lack today, begin at once to give thanks for what you do have. Do not say, "I will be grateful when I receive more." That is like saying, "I will put wood in the fire after it burns for me." No, start the fire with gratitude, and abundance will blaze forth. Here is the affirmation I give you. I give thanks that the millions which are mine by divine right now pour in and pile up under grace in perfect ways. Do not be timid in this thanksgiving. Do not say, "Well, I suppose I should be thankful." Say it with authority. Say it with vision. See your purse filled, your home furnished, your table laden, your life overflowing, and give thanks now before the evidence appears. For thanksgiving in advance is the highest form of faith. It declares, "I believe my good is already prepared. I believe it is rushing to me now." And the law cannot resist such faith. It must fulfill it. Perhaps you are saying, "But Florence, how can I be grateful when I see so little?" And I answer, you are grateful not for the amount, but for the source. You are not praising the few coins. You are praising the infinite supply from which endless coins may come. The coins are tokens, but God is the treasury. When you thank Him, you tap the inexhaustible reservoir, and soon the tokens in your hand multiply beyond reckoning. I have seen people lose money because they held it in fear. They clutched it so tightly, saying, "I must not spend, I must not give, I must not release, or I will have nothing left." And because they feared loss, they attracted loss. But I have also seen people who spent fearlessly, who gave generously, who blessed every dollar as it went forth, and their supply always returned multiplied. Gratitude makes money your servant. Fear makes money your master. So I charge you now, bless what you have, however small. Give thanks for every coin, every bill, every opportunity, every possession. Never again speak lightly of money or curse it with complaint. Instead, declare, I am linked with an endless golden stream of prosperity, which comes to me under grace, in perfect ways. I give thanks for the supply already flowing, and I rejoice in the increase now. Say it until your heart swells with joy, and soon your outer world will swell with plenty. For gratitude is the magnet that draws abundance, and complaint is the sieve that lets it slip away. Choose gratitude, and your wallet will never be empty. There are prisons that no iron bars can form, prisons stronger than stone and steel, and yet invisible to the natural eye. These prisons are built of thought, the hardened accumulations of fear, resentment, failure, regret, envy, and limitation. They are called thought forms, and until they are broken, they bind the soul, they suffocate the body, they block the channels of supply, and they keep the child of God wandering in a cage, though the whole kingdom stands open before him. Every repeated fear is a brick in the wall, every bitter memory is a bar on the window, every grudge is a lock on the door. Many cry for freedom, but they will not sweep out the very thought forms that hold them captive. Yet the law is sure. What you build with your thought must be dissolved by your thought, and the broom of the spoken word is the tool by which every prison can be shattered. Why is this law so vital? Because every outward condition in your life is the crystallization of inward pictures. If you carry the picture of lack, you cannot escape poverty, no matter how hard you labor. If you carry the picture of sickness, your body will answer to that image, even while doctors and remedies strive in vain. If you carry the picture of betrayal, your relationships will echo with suspicion and strife. Until the picture is broken, the play cannot change. But when you sweep away the old thought forms with words of truth, you clear the stage for a new scene, you open the door for new actors, you step into a new script written by Spirit itself. Let me give you a story. Once there was a woman bound by years of resentment. She had been wronged in an inheritance, and though she had wealth enough to live in comfort, her heart was shackled by bitterness. She repeated daily the old story of injustice, rehearsing her wrongs, playing the same record until her very body bore the marks of gallstones. Her health failed, her joy fled, her home grew desolate. Then she was told, "Madam, it is resentment that has built stones in your body. Forgive, release, bless, and the stones will dissolve." She saw the truth of it. She began to sweep her mind with affirmations of goodwill. She said daily, "I bless those who wronged me. I release them into divine justice. I see them prosper, and I see myself free." In a short time, her health returned, her bitterness vanished, her life was restored. She had swept out the old thought form, and her whole being blossomed like a garden in spring. Another example shines through the old story of Cinderella. The cruel stepmother and the jealous stepsisters are but symbols of old thought forms, resentment, envy, fear, that kept her enslaved. But the fairy godmother, the superconscious mind, broke through with a new pattern, clothed her in beauty, placed her in the chariot of divine opportunity, and led her to her rightful place at the king's side. The outer drama was nothing but the shifting of thought forms, the breaking of the false and the revelation of the true. And so it is in your life. Sweep away the old enemies within, and the outer world cannot help but crown you. So how do you do this sweeping? You take up the broom of affirmation. You say, "My seeming impossible good now comes to pass." The unexpected now happens. Every old thought form of fear, resentment, failure, and delay is dissolved and disappears into the native nothingness. I am free, and I walk in newness of life. You say it daily, hourly if need be, until you feel the vibration shift, until the walls within begin to crumble. Every spoken word of truth is like a blow of the hammer on the prison wall. You may not see the cracks at first, but keep striking, and soon the whole structure will fall flat, as the walls of Jericho fell when the trumpets sounded and the people shouted. Do not underestimate the weight of old thought forms. They have been built for years, perhaps lifetimes, and they cling with stubbornness. But do not fear, for they are shadows, not substance. They are false, and the false must always dissolve when the truth is spoken. Be diligent, be fearless, be joyful in your sweeping. Do not sweep with dread, saying, "Will this ever work?" Sweep with confidence, saying, "Every word of truth I speak is a light that drives out darkness. Every affirmation I declare is a wind that scatters ashes. Every blessing I pronounce is a broom that clears the floor of my mind." So I give you this charge. Take up your broom today. Refuse to live in the prisons of yesterday. Refuse to carry the dust of old sorrows. Refuse to rehearse old wrongs. Speak boldly. I now sweep out of my consciousness every old thought form of lack, failure, fear, resentment, and delay. They are nothing, and they are gone. I am now free, free, free. My life is made new under grace and in perfect ways, and as you sweep daily with your words, you will find the walls vanish, the windows open, the doors swing wide, and you will step out into the fresh air of liberty, walking the magic path of divine order under grace in perfect ways. One of the greatest deceptions of the reasoning mind is the lie of someday, I will be rich. Someday I will be free. Someday I will take that trip, live in that house, give to that cause, wear that garment, fulfill that dream. And because men and women push their good into the vague future, it forever escapes them. Someday is a mirage that vanishes as you walk toward it. But the Spirit speaks always of now. Now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. God never moves in delay. God never says, wait until circumstances are better. God's law is instant, immediate, present, alive in this very breath. If you do not bring your dream into the now, you will chase it endlessly into a horizon that never arrives. Why is this law so important? Because faith is always now. You cannot have faith for tomorrow. Tomorrow is imagination, a picture painted in mist. Faith plants itself firmly in this moment and declares, "It is mine already." When you say, "Someday," you confess you do not yet believe. You keep your goods suspended, locked in the realm of hope, but never released into manifestation. But when you say, "Now," you unlock the door. You bring the unseen into the seen, the invisible into the visible, the promise into the possession. Let me give you a living example. A student of mine once longed with all her heart to travel abroad. She had little money, no means of financing such a trip, and all appearances mocked her desire. The reasoning mind said, "It is impossible now." Perhaps someday, when you have saved enough, when circumstances are right, but she had learned the law, and she knew faith must act in the now. So she went out and bought a trunk, a large, bright trunk with a red band about its waist. She had nowhere to go, no ticket purchased, no ship in sight, yet she acted as though her trip were already arranged. She placed her clothing in the trunk. She looked at it daily and declared, "I give thanks for my divinely designed trip, divinely financed, under grace, in perfect ways." Soon after, the money arrived in unexpected channels, and the trip came about in exact perfection. Her trunk had been her testimony of faith. She acted in the now, and her future became present. Do you see the contrast? The one who waits for everything to be perfect before acting will never act, for perfection never arrives in the reasoning mind. There will always be another obstacle, another delay, another excuse. But the one who acts in faith today creates the vibration that draws the supply tomorrow. Spirit honors the present step, not the future plan. It is the step you take now, in seeming emptiness, that proves you believe, and therefore the supply must rush in to meet you. Another woman came to me, longing for her right home. She lived in cramped quarters, surrounded by disorder, yet she spoke often of the beautiful apartment she desired. But her words were always of the future. "Someday, Florence, I will find it. Someday I will live there." I said to her, "Begin to act as though you are moving now. Pack your trunks. Clear out the old. Prepare as though the new apartment were already waiting." She obeyed. She packed her things, she cleared her space, she acted as though the change were immediate. Within days, she was led to the very apartment she had dreamed of, though the city was crowded and others said it was impossible. Her preparation brought the future into the present. So I charge you now, stop living in someday. Someday is unbelief in disguise. Bring your good into today, speak in the present tense, act in the present moment. If you desire health, act now as though your body is strong. If you desire wealth, act now as though your supply is flowing. If you desire opportunity, act now as though the door is open. Do not wait for evidence. Create evidence by your action. For the law cannot resist the vibration of now, it must hasten to fulfill it. Here is the affirmation I give you. I bring the future into the present. What is mine by divine right appears to me now. I give thanks that my good is manifest instantly, under grace, in perfect ways. Say it until you feel your heart leap, until you sense your desire is no longer far off, but here. Then act in accordance. Buy the trunk, pack the box, prepare the table, dig the ditch. Do it today, and tomorrow will open like a flower to meet your faith. For remember, your life is not lived in someday, your life is always now, and the God who gives is always now. So claim your good now, act your faith now, and walk today as though every promise is fulfilled. And soon you will look back and say, "My someday became today because I dared to believe in the law of the now." Every soul, sooner or later, finds itself standing before a wall that seems too high to climb, too thick to break, too strong to shake. It may be the wall of lack, the wall of delay, the wall of resentment, the wall of sickness, the wall of fear. You look at it and say, "This is the end. I cannot pass through. I am shut out from my good," and yet the law declares, there is no wall in divine mind. Every wall is a mirage built of human thought, and the instant you speak the word of truth, the wall must fall flat. The scriptures tell us that the children of Israel came to the city of Jericho, shut up and barred against them. For 7 days they marched around the walls, and on the 7th day they lifted their voices in a great shout, and the walls fell down flat, and every man went straight in. That story is not ancient history. It is a picture of the law of the spoken word. Your Jericho is whatever separates you from your promised land, and your shout of faith, your affirmation of truth, your decree of abundance, is the trumpet blast that crumbles it to dust. Why is this so vital? Because most people live their lives bowing before walls instead of breaking them. They say, "This wall is my destiny. This wall is my limit. This wall proves I am unworthy." They lean against it in despair. They decorate it with excuses. They tell stories about how others have walls too, and so they resign themselves to a life hemmed in by barriers. But the law is merciless in its clarity. Every wall is an illusion built from resentment, fear, envy, complaint, and doubt. And what is built by thought can be broken by thought. The instant you change your inner decree, the outer structure totters. The moment you shout the word of faith, the whole fortress collapses, and you walk free. Let me give you a demonstration. A woman once came to me, desperate for her supply. Everywhere she turned, she met delay. Every door was closed. She said, "It is as though a wall stands before me." I gave her this affirmation. The walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised land, under grace, in perfect ways. She repeated it until she could see in her mind a vivid picture of herself stepping over a fallen wall. Not long after, the supply she needed came to her swiftly, in a way she could never have planned. Her Jericho had fallen flat, not by labor, not by force, but by the decree of her word. Another came to me, full of envy because a friend had received a gift she longed for. That envy built a wall around her own good, shutting her out. I told her to affirm, "What God has done for others, He now does for me and more." She obeyed, and soon she received not only the exact gift her friend had been given, but another besides. Her wall of envy crumbled, and her supply rushed in. Do you see how exact the law is? Every wall has its root in some negative thought, resentment, envy, fear, unbelief, and the word of truth is the shout that shatters it. Your only task is to identify your wall, refuse to honor it, and then lift up your voice with the trumpet blast of affirmation. Do not whisper it timidly, shout it with conviction, speak it with the assurance that the universe must obey. The children of Israel did not murmur faintly at Jericho. They shouted until the ground shook. And so must you shout the truth over your own walls until they collapse. So here is the practice. Stand before your wall, whatever it may be, and declare aloud, "The walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised land under grace in perfect ways." Repeat it until you can see the wall falling. Repeat it until you feel yourself stepping over the rubble into freedom. Repeat it until the outer world matches the inner decree. For the law is absolute. When you speak the word of realization, the wall cannot stand. I tell you this, the walls you see before you are already dust in the eyes of spirit. They are phantoms of your own belief. The truth is that your promised land is already yours, waiting for you to step in. Lift your voice now, shout your decree, and watch the walls fall flat. For nothing can separate you from your good when you know the power of your word. Here is a law that seems foolish to the reasoning mind, but is the very doorway to every demonstration. You must prepare for your good before you see a sign of it. You must act as though it were already yours, as though the harvest were already ripe, as though the promise were already fulfilled. "Faith without works is dead," said the apostle, and works mean preparation. Armchair faith, faith that only dreams and hopes but does not act, remains barren. But living faith moves its feet, digs its ditches, buys its trunk, sets its table, clears its space, and in doing so declares to heaven, "I believe my good is here now." That declaration cannot go unanswered, for the universe is compelled to fill the vessel you prepare. Why is this principle so vital? Because without preparation, your words are empty. You may say, "I believe my abundance is here," but if you live as though it will come someday, your actions betray your unbelief. Spirit cannot pour wine into an unprepared vessel, nor bread into an unmade oven. You must create the container, and then the substance appears. The farmer does not wait for rain before he digs his ditches. He digs first, trusting the rain to come, and when the rain falls, the ditches fill and the fields are watered. If he had waited to see the clouds before digging, the rain would have run off, wasted, lost. So it is in the life of faith. You must dig your ditches before you see a single cloud in the sky. Let me give you proof. A student of mine longed with all his heart to travel abroad. He had no money, no ticket, no invitation. Reason said, "It is impossible. You must wait until you are richer, until circumstances align." But he had learned the law, and he determined to act. He went out and bought a trunk, a bright trunk with a red band about its middle. He placed it in his room. He packed it little by little, and each time he looked at it, he said, "I thank thee for my divinely designed trip, divinely financed under grace, in perfect ways." That trunk put him in the vibration of travel. He felt the ship beneath his feet, smelled the salt air, heard the cry of the gulls. Soon after, a large sum of money came to him in an unexpected channel, and the trip was made in perfect order. He prepared, and the preparation drew the supply. Another woman came to me, desiring her right home. Apartments were scarce, real estate was costly, and friends told her it was useless to try. But she knew the law of preparation. She began to buy small things for her home: blankets, utensils, a picture here, a chair there. Reason mocked her, saying, "Why waste your money? You have no home to put them in." But she said, "I am digging my ditches. I am preparing my place." Soon after, she was led to the very apartment she desired, though hundreds of others were searching in vain. Her preparation proved her faith, and the law honored it. Do you see the contrast? Armchair faith is empty. It says the words, but refuses to act. Living faith proves itself by preparation. Armchair faith waits to see before moving. Living faith moves before it sees, and therefore it sees. Jesus said, "When ye pray, believe that ye have received, and ye shall have it." Believe you have received. How do you show that belief? By preparing. If you believe you have received a feast, you set the table. If you believe you have received a home, you buy the blankets. If you believe you have received the journey, you buy the trunk. If you believe you have received the supply, you make room in your purse. Every preparation is a shout of faith that calls the invisible into the visible. Here is the affirmation I give you. I dig my ditches now. I prepare in faith for the good that is mine by divine right. I thank thee that my vessels are filled, my storehouses overflow, and my preparation is met with instant supply, under grace, in perfect ways. Say it as you take practical steps of preparation. Do not wait for evidence. Do not listen to the scoffers who call it foolish. Remember Noah, who built the ark when no drop of rain was in the sky. Remember the widow of Zarephath, who prepared the cake for Elijah when she had only enough for herself and her child, and her barrel of meal never emptied, her cruse of oil never failed. The world calls it folly, but heaven calls it faith. So I say to you now, prepare for your good. Clean out the old to make room for the new. Buy what belongs to the life you are stepping into. Speak as though you have already received, and act as though the promise is fulfilled. For the law is exact. What you prepare for, you attract. What you refuse to prepare for, you repel. Dig your ditches, set your table, pack your trunk, make your home ready, and you will find that your good arrives suddenly, abundantly, joyfully, under grace, in perfect ways. There are times when the river of your good seems dammed up, when every effort to move forward is blocked, when supply seems delayed, health seems hindered, relationships remain tangled, and progress stalls as though some invisible hand were holding everything back. In truth, the stream of life is always rushing toward you, full, abundant, unceasing. If it is not reaching you, then somewhere a log is jammed across the flow. And the law reveals that in every great log jam there is a kingpin, one piece of timber that holds the whole pile in place. Remove that one, and the river rushes free. So it is in your life. There is always someone thought, someone attitude, someone habit of mind. That is the kingpin blocking your stream. It may be resentment, it may be fear, it may be envy, it may be pride, it may be unbelief. Whatever it is, it has lodged itself in your subconscious, and until you remove it, your supply cannot pour through. Why is this understanding so vital? Because many spend their years hacking at the edges of the jam, laboring with minor details, tinkering with appearances, blaming circumstances and other people, when all the while one hidden thought is the true culprit. If you resent someone, you may speak affirmations all day, yet that resentment will short-circuit your good. If you envy another, you may pray fervently, but envy will shut the door in your face. If you fear loss, you may chant prosperity, but fear will choke the harvest. That one kingpin must be identified and released, or nothing moves. But the moment it is found and removed, everything shifts. The logs of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression rush forward at once, and the river runs clear. I recall a story from the days when the streets of New York were filled with men selling apples. I passed one often, and I noticed his expression was dark, sour, resentful. He muttered, Apples, apples. But no one bought from him. I said to him one day, "Sir, you will never sell apples with that face. Smile. Bless your apples. Radiate goodwill, and you will sell." He scowled. "Well, that fellow over there took my corner." His resentment was his kingpin, and it was blocking his supply. I said, "Never mind about the corner. Bless your place, bless your apples, bless the people, and they will buy." The next day, I passed again and found him smiling, radiant, transformed. And his stand was crowded with customers. He had removed his kingpin, and the river of prosperity rushed in. Another woman once came to me, bitter with envy because her friend had received a fine gift. She spoke of it constantly, gnawed upon it in her mind, and all the while her own good was withheld. I told her, "What God has done for others, He now does for you, and more." That became her affirmation. She said it daily until her envy melted into blessing. Soon after, she received not only the same kind of gift, but another besides. Her kingpin was envy, and when it was removed, her own supply could no longer be delayed. Do you see the law? You must find your kingpin and release it. You may have spoken thousands of affirmations, yet wondered why the river did not flow. It is because one hidden log holds everything back. But Spirit is faithful. Ask, "Infinite Spirit, reveal to me the thought that blocks my good. Show me the kingpin in my consciousness, it will be revealed. Perhaps a long-held resentment, a fear you have excused, a habit of complaint, a prideful judgment. And when it comes to light, speak over it the dissolving word. This resentment is nothing. This fear is nothing. This envy is nothing. They return to their native nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. I am free now. My river of good rushes clear and full. Think of your life as a great logging river. The timber of supply, health, opportunity, joy is meant to float freely down to you. If it is not arriving, do not curse the river. Do not blame the forest. Do not despair of ever receiving. Instead, seek out the kingpin thought. It may be small, like a pebble in the shoe, yet it halts the whole march. Remove it, and everything else rushes forward with ease. So I give you this charge. Find your kingpin, release it, and watch your river flow. Say with me, "I now remove every obstacle to my good." The kingpin thought is revealed, dissolved, and gone. Nothing can hold back my abundance. The river of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression now pours through me, under grace, in perfect ways. Speak it, believe it, act as though it were true, and you will see the sudden rush of long-delayed blessings breaking loose, flooding your life with demonstrations beyond your imagining. For the river of Spirit is never dry, it is only waiting for you to remove the block. There is a law of life which men overlook to their own sorrow. What you delight in multiplies, and what you despise diminishes. Joy is a magnet. Interest is a magnet. Poise is a magnet. These are not mere virtues of temperament. They are spiritual forces that draw success, prosperity, health, and opportunity as surely as the sun draws flowers from the soil. Most people imagine that grim effort, anxious worry, or ceaseless toil will bring them success, when in fact those very states repel it. Nothing great has ever been achieved without joy. Nothing lasting has ever been established without interest. Nothing secure has ever been held without poise. If you want to open the secret door to success, begin not with strain, but with delight. Begin not with panic, but with calm. Begin not with weariness, but with the enthusiasm of spirit. Why is this so vital? Because the law of vibration governs all life. You attract not what you plead for, but what you radiate. If you radiate gloom, discouragement, and complaint, you set up a vibration that drives good away. But if you radiate joy, enthusiasm, and serenity, you set up a vibration that calls your good to you like iron filings to a magnet. The scriptures declare, "Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart." To delight is to rejoice now before the desire appears. and in that delight you draw the desire into form. To delight is to align yourself with the rhythm of heaven, and when you move in that rhythm, all doors swing open of their own accord. Let me give you a demonstration. A man named Jim Tully, once a tramp, called himself the king of the hobos. He wandered, despised, ragged, living on scraps, yet he began to dramatize his life, to find interest in it, to see it as material for stories. He wrote with vividness. He delighted in turning even his hardships into art. And soon he became a successful author, famous and prosperous, living in Hollywood. What had changed? The outer conditions? Not at first. What changed was his inner attitude. He turned from complaint to interest, from self-pity to creativity, from bitterness to joy in expression. That shift in vibration opened the secret door, and prosperity rushed in. I recall also a moving picture called With a Smile, in which the actor Maurice Chevalier showed that even honesty, even virtue, will fail to bring success if it is clothed in gloom. A character said, "What good has my honesty done me?" And Chevalier replied, "Even honesty won't help you without a smile." At that moment, the man changed his countenance, lightened his spirit, and success followed. That is the law. Poise, joy, and interest open doors that toil and strain can never unlock. Now consider the opposite. I once passed an apple seller on the street whose face was twisted with resentment. He muttered, "Apples, apples," but his vibration repelled every passerby. I told him, "Sir, you will never sell apples with that face. Smile, and you will prosper." He laughed bitterly, blaming another man for taking his corner. But the next day I saw him again, transformed, smiling, radiating cheer, and the crowd pressed in to buy. His apples were no different, his stand no different, but his vibration had shifted, and with it his supply. So I say to you, guard your vibration as you would guard treasure. Cultivate joy, even in little things. Find interest in whatever lies before you. Maintain poise when appearances scream chaos. For joy multiplies your good, interest enlarges your field, and poise holds your blessings secure. Here is the affirmation I give you. I delight myself in the law of God, and the desires of my heart are given to me. I radiate joy, interest, and poise, and all that is mine by divine right now rushes to me under grace in perfect ways. Speak it until your face shines, until your voice rings, until your very presence draws good to you. Let your life become a magnet of delight, and you will find that doors once closed swing open, opportunities once hidden reveal themselves, and your path becomes luminous with success. So refuse the weary grimace, refuse the heavy sigh, refuse the burdened tone. Step instead into the rhythm of joy, the current of interest, the calm of poise, and you will see that what toil could not accomplish, joy will. What anxiety could not win, interest will. What panic could not hold, poise will secure. For these are not small virtues, they are the very keys to the kingdom, the levers that move the gates of your destiny. Walk with joy, with interest, with poise, and the treasures of life cannot help but pour themselves into your hands. Now, beloved, we have walked together through the laws that govern money, supply, and success, and you have seen that your wallet is not filled by labor, but by law. You have heard that God is your unfailing supply, that your word is your wand, that your thoughts shape your destiny, that substitution always brings the right in place of the wrong, that intuition is the compass of the soul, that gratitude multiplies what you have, that sweeping away old thought forms frees your path, that acting in the now brings tomorrow's good into today, and that joy, interest, and poise are the keys that swing open the secret door to success. Again and again I have told you, and I tell you once more, the law never fails. What you speak with conviction, what you prepare for with faith, what you release with trust, what you bless with gratitude, what you act upon with joy. These things must appear in your life, for heaven and earth are bound to obey your word when it is spoken in alignment with truth. Do not say, I will try. Do not say, I hope. Say, I know. Say, it is done. Say, God is my supply, and I cannot fail. Speak these words until they burn in your very bones, until they sing in your very blood, until they become the music of your soul. For the law responds not to feeble wishes, but to bold declarations. You are not here to crawl like a beggar. You are here to stand like a ruler. You are not here to plead with heaven. You are here to command in the name of divine law. Lift your head, square your shoulders, fill your voice with conviction, and speak the word of power. Let me give you a final affirmation to carry with you, a sword of truth that will cut through every appearance of lack. God is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways. Every bill is paid, every need is met, and my wallet is filled to overflowing. I walk in abundance now, say it morning and night. Say it when fear whispers lack. Say it when bills arrive. Say it when appearances mock you. Say it until the law bends, until the walls fall, until the river flows, until your life sings with plenty. And it will, for the law cannot fail. And now I say to you, this is only the beginning. You have seen how the word fills the wallet, but know this, your word can also heal the body, restore the heart, renew the mind, open every door of destiny. If your tongue can command supply, then it can command health. If your lips can fill your purse, then they can strengthen your blood, clear your eyes, and renew your youth like the eagles. In my next teaching, I will reveal how to speak the word for health, how to command your body as you have commanded your wallet, how to live free from sickness and walk in the perfect pattern of divine life. Do not miss it, for it will be the companion to this truth, and together they will set you free indeed. So I leave you with this charge. Walk boldly in the law. Speak only words of life. Prepare for your good before you see it. Cast every burden on the Christ within. Bless what you have, and it will multiply. Find your joy, and it will magnetize your success. And above all, never doubt the power of your word, for your word is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, between the promise and the possession, between heaven's storehouse and your filled wallet. Speak, believe, rejoice, and receive. For the law is sure, the supply is endless, and your abundance is here now, under grace, in perfect ways.